Well, hello everyone. It's Feroshia Knight from Coach Training World, and I am sitting here screen to screen with the wonderful Dorhmans, and we are going to have an awesome conversation today, and I'd love to tell you a little bit more about them. I've known these guys for better part of a year, and the one thing I can say is Bob and Holly Dorhman actually have seen it all. They've been married for 20 years, kids, grandkids, twins, you name it, they've encountered it. In fact, they are devotees to doing whatever it takes to really make things work out. And not just work out, but work out really well. Through thick and thin, the Dorhmans have strengthened their marriage through trust, communication, and most importantly, their willingness to learn and grow together. Now in their fourth decade of marriage, they are returning I would just say, your gifts to the world. And essentially, you've started a business helping other people to sustain their relationships over the duration and to make it juicy and healthy and loving. And I can't wait to hear what you have to say. But before we get started, I really want to know, how did you end up in coaching?
You want to start?
Yeah, I'll start. Well, I've been a machinist for 25 years. I come from a really blue-collar background, generational kind of situation. And I was really tired of that. I like to be around people. I like to hear stories. And I wasn't getting that part of my life. It wasn't being honored where I was at, and it was really starting to affect me. And so Holly got a job opportunity in a different city, so we moved. And I quickly realized after we did leave that I knew what I didn't want to do, but I didn't know what I wanted to do in its place. So I kind of went through a little bit of identity crisis, and it was really kind of, it was a little bit scary for me. So I started looking for something to do, and I looked into a business that was more health oriented because I do like helping people. And I met someone there that was helping me through that course, and she had said, if you really want to be good at this, you need to become a life coach. And I said, oh, what's a life coach? So she said, she gave me a little background, and I said, well, where should I go? And she had gone to Coach Training World with you, Feroshia, and I trusted her a lot. So I just signed up. I didn't talk to you. I didn't talk to anybody. I just signed up, and there I was. So I ended up there just to complement what I thought I was going to be doing. And in that process, I realized that coaching was what I really wanted to do.
And then there's Holly.
Yeah, I would say my journey was a little less smooth. There was a little bit of kicking and screaming maybe in the beginning. So Bob started going through the classes and bringing home information, sharing it with me, and it was really interesting. I enjoyed what I was hearing, and he started talking about, well, maybe you should do this, and I was extremely hesitant. That's the only way I could describe it. I just couldn't see how it would work for me, especially doing what I'm doing. I just couldn't see the fit in my current position, and I wasn't really sure that was something that I wanted to change careers and do. So I was trying to kind of process it, and he made a comment just one day that we should do this together, and that really, I think, was kind of the turning point. The aha moment for me was like, yeah, I think that was something that I could really get behind. And so it still took me a little while. I didn't jump right in. But at the first of the year, it finally kind of clicked that, yeah, I enjoy what I'm doing currently, but I don't think I want to be there for the next 20 years. And so the thought of doing something together, we do everything else together, why not this? So that's kind of, I signed up, and here we are.
And you're not kicking and screaming.
Not anymore.
Awesome. Well, I'm curious, with all those years of marriage, what do you think is the one thing that's made it possible for you two to really navigate the tough waters? And you could even share some of the tougher waters if you'd like.
You want me to go?
Sure. You can start.
I think both of we found out through coaching that honesty and trust is really high on our list of values. And I think a lot of times when we went through those tough times, we just kind of powered through it without really talking a lot or digging deep and finding out why we got there and what the best way was going to be to get out of them. And so, like I said, we just kind of muscled through it and we made it. And I would not recommend that. It caused a lot of stress. And, there's a lot of times when we didn't get along, but we were in it for the long haul and we knew that. So we ended up coming around and we learned things the hard way, especially me. We would, I like to resolve issues immediately. Holly likes to take time. And the more I wanted to resolve the issue immediately, the longer she wanted to take to come to that conclusion. So I've learned to give her space. And when that happens, miraculously, she comes around a little quicker. So, it's just things like that we've learned along the way, through trial and error and a lot of times pain and misery. But the trust has always been there. And it's been, like early in our relationship, it wasn't as strong as it is now, obviously. But over the years, we've just kind of built on it to where we're at the point now where I feel like we do trust each other. And I don't ever doubt her trust in me and my trust in her. And it's a really good feeling, even when you're maybe not getting along great, that at the end of the day, you're going to be there for each other.
It kind of reminds you of, that you've got each other's backs.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one time we heard, we'd kind of gone through a pretty rough patch.
Mm-hmm.
And someone said, and we realized now, looking back, we were really kind of being selfish. We were both worried about what was going on for us and not seeing it from the other person's point of view. But someone just gave us some advice and said, think of the 5% rule. If 5% of what happens really matters. And so just step back and look at what's going on and say, in 5 years, 10 years, are you going to remember this? And when we started kind of stepping back and going, okay, what's most important? We focused on those and we let the little stuff go. And I think that really was a turning point.
Yeah. I use the example of the lid not being on the toothpaste tube. Didn't bother me as much after we looked at it that way. Before the little things kind of irritate you and you're thinking about yourself and what's inconvenient for you. And when you take your eyes off yourself and put them on your partner and think, is it really that big a deal that I have to, put 2 turns on the lid for the toothpaste? No, it's not that big a deal. And it's not worth bringing up. So perspective,
Okay, the toothpaste is killing me.
So I do not screw the lid on anything.
Yeah.
But he also doesn't pick his socks up. So we got something.
Yep. So we just tend to look the other way on those minor imperfections that we have, and we seem to get along better. So.
Oh my gosh. Well, and you also are what I would say parents extraordinary. My brain's not working here. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Because you've not only focused on you, but you guys got married fairly young because we're decade 4 and you look like 20.
Well, no, I don't think I would have back to 20.
But, you also had kids fairly young.
Yes.
Yeah, we met in college, right out of high school, and we were married when we were 19, much to the chagrin of a lot of our relatives.
Most of our relatives.
Yeah. And I completely understand that. If my kids would have come to me and said they wanted to get married when they were 19, I would have probably had a heart attack. But we went ahead and did that. And then Holly had our boys. We had twin boys when we were 21. So we got started fairly early. And, that probably in ways made it tougher, but in ways just made it, we really, at that point, we weren't looking at ourselves too much at all. We were looking at
That's right.
2 babies. So that helped us kind of come together as a team and get through that. But, it's, we just had to learn on the fly. And I think a lot of what we learned, we took for granted. We didn't even really realize what was happening as we learned it. Through coaching, we've looked back and said, oh, that's what happened there. Now I understand. But in the heat of the moment or in the process, it was just what we did to get by.
Yeah.
And now we're starting to realize, oh, it would have been really nice to have known that this was actually happening, and it would have probably made life a little bit easier, in that situation and transitioning into when our kids were in school and in high school and when they left home. And so I can see the value of knowing what's happening while it's happening would help a lot.
Well, and we took the partnership to the way we raised our kids. It was all about united front. You know, they always knew you didn't ask mom and get a no and go ask dad, because he was going to say, what'd your mom say? So we took the partnership to that into our parenting, and I think that helped a lot. We were always, you know, we had each other's back in that as well. So.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, I noticed as you're saying, it sounded like almost when you got into the coaching, you started to have labels and descriptions and kind of understand some of these choices you were already making that were really working for you, kind of gave you the context for it.
Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've looked back at some of the interaction I had with my boys as they were growing up, and I realized, you know, one of my sons liked to talk everything into the ground, and I was not always willing to discuss everything at length. And I just realized that that's how he processes, and that's what he needs to do to feel okay with it. And guess who else processes like that? Dad. So it was interesting to see that, and I thought, boy, I wish I would have known that when it was happening, so I could have maybe empathized with him a little bit more and kind of helped him feel better about what was going on. So, you know, I could see where, you know, like I said, if we'd have had a coach then, maybe they could have pointed that out to me and made it a little easier on both of us. But you know, we're not worried about what happened then. We're just excited about what we're moving forward with. So
Yeah, definitely.
Well, it sounds like you understood, you know, how you as a parent was basically going to be modeled and replicated in many of the behaviors of your children.
Yeah,
good and bad. We weren't perfect by any means.
No, not at all. You know, I grew up in a broken home. My parents divorced when I was 10, so it was really important for me to have that family unit. Even from an early age, I was really determined to have a family, and I wanted my kids to experience that stability and that love and all those things that come with a family. And I tried to, you know, one of my things with my boys was I always open the car door for their mother. So, but if we're there together and and she gets to the car door before they do, they're in trouble, kind of, you know. Not real serious trouble, but so there's always a race for mom's car door to make sure they get to it to open it before she gets in. And I've seen them do that with their wives. You know, they make sure that they're there to open the door for their wives, and their kids are going to see that. And those kind of things really mean a lot to us.
They do. It's really nice to watch them now that they're married. Just model some of the things that they saw their dad do. So that's pretty cool.
And their mom.
And then mom was very very good at picking up the pieces when dad blew things up sometimes. But you know, we do see that our boys really value their relationship with their wives, and they learned that from both of us, and that makes us really happy and proud that we were able to do that for them, and that they're going to carry that on. And one thing we do see them do is, and it's what took us a while to learn, was they think of their spouse first. And, you know, we've heard it called the 50-50, but it's not really, it's 100-100. You know, if you're thinking of your spouse all the time, even in little ways to make their life easier, and they're doing the same thing for you, things work really well. If you're thinking of yourself and what your spouse could do to make your life easier, things don't work very well. So we tried to really impress that upon them, and it seems to be working pretty well for them.
Yeah.
That's so sweet. It's interesting because in many ways, what you're really talking about is really showing up in deep honor of the other person.
Absolutely.
And showing, I'm hearing themes of respect, trust, you know, of course, the intimacy and the communication. In terms of, and I'd love to hear from Holly first, a little bit of the female perspective. What do you think is most important that someone knows about being in a healthy, long-lasting relationship like yours?
Well, I would say this took us a long time to figure out, but I think the other person can't read your mind. And that was really something, I'll be honest, I didn't understand that. I couldn't figure out how come, you know, certain things that I thought were important weren't important to Bob. And I realized that he didn't even realize that they were important to me. And so as soon as I said, you know, not leaving your socks in the living room. That's kind of important to me. Could you, at least throw them in the bedroom? That became more important to him when I voiced that. He had no idea. I would just get upset because I had to pick him up. And so I think just being open, if it bothers you, say it. If it's something that do you want flowers on Valentine's Day? Tell them so that they have an opportunity to honor that for you. If they don't know, then, I found out you get disappointed because you're thinking that this is going to happen because it's important to you and they have no idea. So I would say that was something that took a long time for us to figure out that the other one didn't, like the toothpaste. What's the big deal? It's a lid, right? The toothpaste is in the drawer, and when I found out it was an important thing, I made more of an effort to tighten the lid on the toothpaste, but, it was a big deal, let me tell you.
Well, and it's interesting because you're bringing up a really good point. It's like, express your needs. And what happens when someone expresses their needs and maybe it's not met, or it's not something that the other person's willing to take on?
That's where I think for us, it just took time. I wouldn't say that I still don't get the whole thing about the toothpaste. I'm going to tell you. If I would probably never put a lid on anything if I had my druthers. But for us, it was just something that took time. We had to have those. Sometimes you just have to have the conversation and say, like I said, it's not really a top 10 priority, but I knew I could tell that it bothered Bob. And so I started to make it more because I loved him. And I wanted, when I was, like you said, when you're looking out for somebody else, they start to reciprocate. And at least it worked. That was how it worked for us.
Right.
When I was more willing to meet him and put the lid on the toothpaste, he'd pick his socks up for me. So, it wasn't like instantly, but, once we kind of that change in our attitude happened, we started trying to make more of an effort. And little by little, it got to be where, we just didn't even think about it anymore. It was just something we started looking for. Okay, well, what else can I do that's going to make, that's going to make things easier for him or meet a need that he has. And
I'm super curious about that because what I hear, there's all these tools, nonviolent communication, getting your needs met, love languages, all these different things out there. But it almost sounds like you guys had a natural shift that was just happening because of the attitude change.
Yeah, I think it was partially that. And we're pretty strong in our faith. And we believe that our marriage is eternal. And when you put an eternal perspective on something, toothpaste lids are not nearly as big of a deal as, our love for each other or, respecting each other or the big things that really matter, that are underneath all those other things right on the surface. And part of what made us able to get past those things is, as our trust grew, I would see something and I would say, she wouldn't do that to me just to irritate me or to bother me. So this isn't something that she has no idea about. And therefore I wouldn't get as upset about something that didn't really matter. And if it really mattered enough to me and I brought it up, she'd say, oh, all right. And we would make an adjustment there. But it wasn't, super easy all the time.
No.
We had to learn those lessons over and over sometimes until we got to where, it was ingrained in us basically. And like I said, we really, it's been interesting to look back at how we live and say, oh yeah, we do that, don't we? Because we just do it so naturally with each other now. So.
So from your perspective, Bob, what do you think is the most important thing? And maybe even just speaking to the men.
I think men are really bad at, let's put it this way. Men are really good at hiding their feelings. And that, like I said, that muscling through, it's really easy to just say, suck it up and get to work or however you want to phrase it. And I think it really, I'm not good at it yet, but I'm working on it. But there's times when I need to tell Holly something that's really emotional or really personal, even personal to me within our marriage, that after 30 years, I don't feel like I want to just come right out and say it to her. But when I do that, when I'm vulnerable to her, then things go really well. When I'm putting a wall up, then there's friction. She knows something's wrong. We've been married long enough to know when something's not right. So, and she'll say, what's going on? Nothing. And pretty soon she'll say, so what's really going on? And I'll say nothing. And, after a while, we'll get to where I'll talk about it. And it's a real relief when I just let her know that, because there's just, like I said, there's a lot of trust here, and she has compassion and empathy for me, and she loves me. So, why wouldn't you want to tell the person that you love the things that are making you feel, either bad or good or any of those other things, so that they can be more in tune with you? And Holly's a lot like that too. She's a real muscle through the emotion kind of person. So I have to do the same thing with her. So we ask that question a lot. So what's going on? And, then we both deny that there's anything. And then sooner or later we get around to the truth. So it's a process, and it's exhausting sometimes. Like I said, she likes time to deal with things. I want to take care of things right now. Whoever said don't go to bed mad that's great advice for people that want to talk about it right now. But if I tell Holly we're not going to bed until we get this worked out, she'll be up for 18 hours, and that won't be a good thing. So there's times when I just let her have her space, and maybe it takes 2 hours, maybe it takes till the next morning. But, we've found what works for us.
So I have to ask, because so as someone who, and I'm sure there's a lot of us out there, I'm talking about myself, who really, when I sense something's going on and I really just want to make that invitation to the other person, male or female, it's like I think I'm seeking for, hey, I'm noticing something, and I still get oh, everything's fine. What's some wisdom for someone like that when that happens? When you can't, you've made the invitation, but nothing's changing?
I pick, which is probably part of the problem. I don't let him off the hook that easy, and he doesn't let me off the hook either. I mean, like he said, we've been married so long, we usually know. And so, we may drop it for a little bit, but we'll come back to it. And there are times when it's like, I just have to say, okay, you're not telling me something, and we gotta talk about it. And most of the time, I wouldn't say it always goes well. I mean, we even just in the car yesterday had a conversation, and it didn't start out well. We could just tell that there was some tension, and it took us a while to actually but I think we've gotten to the point now where it's like, okay, we know we have to have the conversation. So eventually we get there. And we just don't let each other off the hook anymore. I think before we used to.
Yeah. And I think if you're maybe not in a relationship where you have that trust developed yet, I think if you let that person know where you're coming from, I'm worried about you, I care about you, maybe you love them at that point or whatever, and just say, I just see something that doesn't seem right, and I want to make sure there's, nothing that I can do that wouldn't help you. So if you can tell me what's going on, maybe I can help you with it. So I think it depends on where you're at in your relationship. There's, when you have 2 kids and you're going between band concerts and ball games, sometimes like, all right, we got to get this fixed right now because we got to be somewhere in 20 minutes and blah, blah, blah. And we got to quit, wipe our eyes so it doesn't look like we're just crying or whatever. So, it just depends on where you're at and what's going on. But I think when where that person's coming from a place of real concern and love, then the other person's a lot more apt to open up. Doesn't mean they always will, but I think you're more apt to.
Yeah.
It almost feels like the theme is really coming from the place of love.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And also the commitment and the loyalty and to keep trying. Don't let something get under the carpet where it suddenly festers and then bursts and then it's too late. But just
that's, I think, probably was our MO for a long time. It was just ignore it until it became so big that you couldn't ignore it anymore.
Right.
And once I think that's when that perspective changed, it helped us to we started with the big things first. And then now now the things are just little things that, you know, we're just, I don't know, feel like maybe more fine tuning, you know. I mean, yeah, there's always, you know, it's not, life isn't perfect. You know, we help each other through a lot, but to me, the big things, we know how to work with each other, and we can really find a way through. Now we're just kind of fine tuning those little things that, you know.
And, you know, like I said, I mean, for me, it's just so much about that I trust her. And if she comes to me with an observation or a concern, then I know why she's coming to me. It's not like she's coming to me because I'm making her life miserable, which maybe I am, but that's not why she's coming. She's coming like, what's going on? What's, you know, you're not happy. Let's talk about what's going on. And, you know, usually I will get around to coming to that, you know, point where I'll talk to her about it. But like I said, I know why she's there. I know she's going to be there. And we've developed that, and that takes time. And, you know, trust to me, and I think we both feel this way, is something, it's a gift that you give someone. And when that is, you know, that trust is broken, or you feel like it's not honored, that's really, really hard to get back. Super hard. But, you know, we're still human, and we're going to make mistakes. And, you know, we have the luxury of going, all right, I extended that trust, and I feel like it maybe wasn't completely honored, but I know Holly well enough to know that if she didn't honor it, it was a complete accident, or she wasn't aware of what was going on. If you're in an earlier, you know, in the beginning stages of our relationship, I probably wouldn't have felt that comfortable with that situation. So we've just kind of developed it over the years.
Well, I love the fact that you guys are willing to share the intimate details of your relationship and actually be a role model and a mentor for future couples to really be successful, so they can enjoy a long life together and enjoy their families. And I would imagine all the things that come up, money, communication, and things like that. Curious, is there anything we didn't talk about that you would love to share with our audience, especially around your coaching or some of the things you help people with?
You know, for me, I just realized that everybody's got their stuff. You know, sometimes I go, why can't I feel like, when I was at my old jobs, like, why can't I be okay with going to work and being satisfied and being content with what I have? And I just wasn't honoring what my values were. And that's what it boiled down to. And once I found out what those were, it made complete sense of why I wasn't happy there, you know? And I think men, I shouldn't say especially, but I know a lot of the men that I know probably never get to that point where they look into that. They just muscle through it. And I think that life would be so much happier, and the world would be a better place, you know, if everybody was doing what honored their values. You know, I made airplane parts for a living. I want the guy making my airplane parts to be super happy about making airplane parts, especially when I'm at 38,000 feet, right? I don't want him going to work going, I hate my job. I want him going, yes, I get to make more airplane parts. So if people would just slow down and look at that and see that they can be happy and they can honor their values and they can do things that make them happy, then I think the world's going to be a lot more fun to be in. And we're excited about helping people do that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess for me, the thing that, you know, we had kids young, we got married young, and now we're at this stage in our life where we spend all of our time together, and we love it. I mean, we would much rather be together than apart. And I would, you know, we just hope that the things that we have the opportunity to share with others that they can have that kind of relationship as well, because we just, you know, that's why we want to do this business, is because we want to continue doing things together. And so, you know, something that we can share helps inspire other people to, you know, do those things that they want to do and can do it together. I think that's amazing. So,
and if, you know, like I said, if I can think of Holly first and she thinks of me first, you know, if more people can do that for each other in their relationship, they're going to be pretty happy.
Yeah. Or they might have to get a dog.
You can have both.
That's my joke. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much for showing up, sharing, and shining here. It's just so lovely to see you guys. And I know you have group coaching, individual coaching. Anything coming up or that we should be noting? What do you call it? Paying attention to?
Well, we're doing research on exactly how we're going to offer what we have to people. And when we do that, we're going to put launch a website. Until then, I've just been giving my email address out if people would like to get a hold of us. And my email address is bobdorhman@yahoo.com. And we will have a profile on the Coach Training World website soon, I'm sure. So people can look at that and reach us that way also.
Yeah, and I'll be sure to put your website down underneath the video when it's fully relaunched. And a little bit of background for those who are just listening: they actually had started separate businesses, got fully, really functioning on both of them, and then turned around and like, we want to work together.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's where we are.
Which I guess was also a clarification of values.
Yeah,
I
was trying a couple different niches out as far as where I wanted to coach, and there were things that I was interested in, but nothing got me as excited as when we talked about working together. So, and we really value our time together, and it just seems like a good fit.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. You guys are just awesome.
Thank you very much, Feroshia.
Awesome. I'll see you soon.
All right. Bye-bye.